Welcome to the Doubles Podcast. I'm HeYamin.
And I'm Andromeda.
And today we are talking about
Plants.
We're starting off actually with answering a question that Nikki posed, which is we're not going to answer the question exactly, but we're gonna answer it our way.
Yeah.
So the question on the last video we were talking about, well, you were talking about plants.
Yes.
And she asked about plants, and this is not me reading it. I have it, slightly memorized. About plants, what do you plant? And something else. So she was basically asking about what do you plant
care, what to plant.
But I think we were talking about this prior when we were preparing ourselves for this episode. We were going to talk about plants in a different way, but we were going to answer the question, but just in a different way.
Sure.
It's going to be. But let's start by talking about, and you take the reins on this one.
Okay.
I will pose the question of how do you find the plants you need to work with? How do you connect with them? And what can you do for care of plants that you're working with? Go for it.
Okay. So I will buy anything and everything if I can afford it. If I go to a store and I feel like, hey, I like this plant's energy, I'm going to bring that plant home, which has caused some not minor fights.
I do not argue. I do not.
You just look at me
I just look at you and I say, oh, another one. At least they're not animals.
Yes, at least I don't have, 10 cages of spiders and 3 cages of snakes.
Yeah.
So I feel like, well, for one, you want to, if you're just starting out and you feel like you don't have a green thumb, you want to get plants that are easy. And I think spider plants are probably the easiest, also most dangerous plants you can bring home. You definitely don't want them if you have pets, but they can survive some pretty horrific situations. You don't actually have to have living plants. You can have herbs that you can work with that you feel strongly called to. So, I like to work with some plants that I'm not able to grow them in, the climate of our area. And so I keep spices, and that's a good way to start. Just go to a bulk section of a natural grocery store, and it perks if you can actually get it weighed out yourself and it's not pre-bagged, because then it's a lot easier to work with the energy of the plant. And just get what feels right. And if it gets to the point where you want an actual plant, just bring plants home. Watch YouTube videos on how to care for them. Don't bring home orchids and fancy plants that are gonna, die if you water them too much or too little, and just that type of stuff. But there are a lot of plants that are very easy to keep. And something else that I do is, if there are plants living in your area, just connect with them. If there's plants that grow in your front yard, or you walk by a bush that you feel very connected to, work with that. Work with those energies. You don't have to have your own garden even. The point is to work with the spirit of the plant. For myself specifically, I started out not doing very well with plants. I killed a lot of plants. I have a plant graveyard in my parents' backyard. But I got better because I learned how to take care of plants. I read books, I watched YouTube videos, and I learned from my mistakes. And I proceeded on. Magically speaking, there are some really great books out there, and I cannot remember the name of my favorite book. It's the Green Book.
It's the Wiccan book, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have bought many copies of that book. We have 2 copies of it. We have the shorter edition, and I think mine's the longer edition.
Yeah.
And it is magical herbs, and
we'll have to post
the Scott
link.
Cunningham
Scott
book.
Cunningham, yeah.
It's the best book, because when I started, not to side rail, but when I started doing magic, the first thing I did before I did any rituals or spells or anything is I made potions, and I worked with herbs. I made potions, I made oils. I did it religiously because where I lived, I couldn't practice because of the people that I was around and the types of stuff going on. It wasn't feasible where I lived for me to practice, and I wasn't in a place where I was practicing. I was scrying and stuff, but I made oils and I made herb potions, and they worked, and I was like, wow, these are awesome. And Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Herbs or
Magical
something.
Herbs.
Magical
Yeah,
Herbs.
something like
and
that.
I have that. I have a hoodoo book, which is really good. That one's really good. It's a hoodoo root book. And I have a few others. But yeah, no, like I never had many plants. I'm not like big on the plant thing, but I have done a lot of, and we'll get into it later when we get into deeper aspects of plants and nature, but I am a trained shaman, and not like in the sense of like I went to Peru and I was given the ways of the old, but I did some classes, did some initiations, a lot of initiations, did some stuff, became a Peruvian shamanic healer, but it's not like some like big thing, and it's not like a woo woo thing where it's none of it's real. It was passed down to this lady, and she went and passed it on to a bunch of people who paid for it, and it wasn't expensive or anything. And the lady was really good. She was really good at what she was doing. I really liked it. Only course I ever did from her that really stood out to me, but and it was one-on-one kind of thing where there was a group of us. Anyways, great stuff. Learned a lot. Helped me in my work at that time. But prior to that, with my energy work, at first it was all shamanic. Like I was connecting with energies of the earth and spirits of the earth, and I'd go to the rivers, I'd see the spirits of the river, and anyways. And it's not like one of those things where it's like, separate from that, because we live on a giant spinning ball, of material, and different, and a bunch of stuff's growing on top of it and rooted into it. So plants are a form of the energy that permeate the planet. Like nothing would be alive without those plants. And it's not to say that I don't like plants, because I love nature. I love hiking. I love camping out in nature. I love being out in nature. I love the idea of like if you could live out in the woods in a cave and live healthily and naturally, like or the elven thing where you sing to the trees and they turn into these houses, and you live in the house trees. Anyways, so yeah, like I'm totally all for the hippie thing. Like I'm 100% on board with that. But we don't. And one thing we should say specifically with plants, you shouldn't be taking them for what is the term? Hallucinogenic effect or whatever.
Hallucinogenic.
Like well, no, like hallucinogenic, yeah. But I mean like also I can't remember the word. There's a word that basically means that it is not like it's a hallucinogen, but it gets you high.
Yeah.
But that like we that's not the kind of plant stuff we're into. We're not that hippie. We're hippie, but we're not that hippie.
Yeah. I think there is a point where plant medicine is good, but
Yeah.
it can definitely be abused and overused.
It opens doors, but the problem is most people that open those doors aren't ready for those doors to be open, so they're stuck with using the plant to continually open the door. Which is funny because when I was doing Golden Dawn work, I got to a point where I felt like I was just opening and closing doors every day. Like I was like, okay, in the morning I'm going to open this door, and in the night I'm going to close this door. And that didn't, like, when I realized that, I kind of fell off on it. I know it's like completely unrelated, but it's related, but it's unrelated. Um, but yeah, and I don't think that it's healthy to be like, and everybody do at their own discretion what they want. But I mean, marijuana has become one of those plants where people use it in unhealthy senses. Um, and it's not, I'm not on a soapbox here. I used to enjoy some marijuana, but I just don't find it, at this point in my spiritual practice. I don't
I think
find any.
it starts affecting you
Yeah.
much differently when you get to a certain point, because I used to, practice freely the usage of, the weed.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I couldn't. I would use a small portion and immediately just spin off into Never Land and really struggle for, quite a while afterwards. I think you reach a point in your journey where it's uncomfortable to use, I think.
And like the like chance of psychosis being so high, especially with modern marijuana, because of the fact that they breed out CBD, which CBD causes the high to be calm. Like it causes you to not overly hallucinate while they're breeding that out, because they realize that it will get you higher if the THC levels are higher and the CBD levels are almost non-existent. So when you smoke something that's low CBD, your chance of having a panic attack goes like 100%. Like it's insane how much higher it is. I'm not going to give you numbers because I don't have those in front of me. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, and it's chance of psychosis. I think it's like 60% every time you smoke weed. Like it's 60% of the time it can.
Yeah.
And then 40% of that time it can make it permanent. And those are old numbers. I remember those numbers from a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not, and I'm not knocking anybody who imbibes, but if there's a time and a place, and most people that are chronic smokers, they're not using it medicinally.
No. Well, I mean,
so
there's specific reasons, but
yeah.
yeah. Back to
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Where I was coming from, I really like Scott Cunningham's book, and it has some very helpful pointers, but it is a little bit westernized. So you don't have your stuff like white pepper, and I don't believe saffron is in there, and star anise, things like that. I found that sometimes the things that are in the book are not applicable to the actual spirit of the plant when I start to work with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very common thing. I think that the way that a plant wants to be used can change in relation to the person. And I've had some plants that they're, specifically stated to be used for like love magic and romantic magic, and they are actually, to me, they're very protective. So I think connecting with the spirit of the plant, the energy current of the plant. That's a really big thing. And that's why I say you don't actually have to have an actual growing plant. It is nice because you have that full-bodied energy of the plant, and you can grow and connect to each other, and that bond can become very, very intense. But when you're working with the energy current of an herb, or dried spices and things like that, you're going to get the same effects, especially if you're repeatedly coming back, because that is an energy current that it goes beyond one plant. It's part of the nature of the plant as a whole. So I think that's important to talk about, because I think so many people believe you have to actually grow the plants in order to be a plant witch. And you don't actually have to do that. You can literally go to, the grocery store and pick up a couple plastic containers of herbs, and they're going to work for you. You just have to sit and work with the current of energy that is carried in those herbs. You may have to wake it up, but it's going to work.
Well, and as you because I wasn't growing anything that I was making potions or oils out of. I've never grown my own plants for that purpose. But you can literally just work with the intention of its purpose. As people, and this is not going into working with currents or anything. I mean, you can literally just, if you can't connect to the plant spirit itself in a way of saying a prayer to it, sitting with it and just feeling it in your hands. And I know this sounds very, very basic, but it's to the point where, like Andromeda said, you're awakening the spirit in the dried plant. But if you're saying prayers to and it's not like you're praying to the plant, but praying to the spirit of the plant, praying to connect, setting intention to connect, making something out of it, using it. And especially if it's something you can imbibe, if you're imbibing that and it's healthy, it's not going to, mess with anything already going on, because I'm not a doctor, but anything you have going on, this is not medical advice. This is spiritual advice. If you make a potion out of mugwort, or in safe doses, or something, you could even use bamboo, whatever plant you want to connect with that is not poisonous and is healthy and safe for you to consume or wear on your skin. You make an oil out of it. You don't drink the oil, but you make an oil out of it to put on your skin with olive oil or vitamin E or something. What is the oil that you like to use?
There's several different ones. There's the grape oil, grapeseed oil.
Yeah.
There's jojoba oil, almond
oil. That's
almond oil.
One,
yeah.
So if you make an oil and you put it on your skin, if you can't imbibe it, or you make and you charge it,
and you also want to make sure it's not going to interact badly when you put it on your skin.
Yeah.
You don't want to put
and so you make an oil, or or a potion, and you're charging it with the intent of knowing the plant or working with the plant, and you're doing that, and then you're you could light a candle, a small chime candle, or even a big candle if you want, and if you have the oil, you could dress the candle in the oil, and then you use the oil on your skin. You have the bottle next to it during that, and you use the oil on your skin during that time to connect with the plant more and more, and understand the effects and understand it. And you can do it with a potion if it's a safe thing to be imbibing, because in safe quantities. This is like I said, I'm not a doctor. This is spiritual advice. So just to continue to push that point.
It's very important not to especially if you're planning to imbibe you want to make sure you are being safe with your amounts and you're not overdoing it, because I don't know if it was in our last podcast, I had talked about the Blue Lotus
Yeah.
tincture. And Blue Lotus can actually be a hallucinogenic, and it can be dangerous if taken in high quantities. So it is incredibly important to research and check into like how much is safe when you're using an item, because sometimes it can be as small as like 2 to 3 drops of a tincture, and sometimes you're going to want a whole cup of tea of some plant or other.
Mm-hmm.
And even some oils that are sold online, you get that oil and it says that you can use it, but you want to research the ingredients of the oil, because sometimes there's stuff in there that could break you out if you're not if you're sensitive to them, or if they're a little bit stronger than they maybe should be. So it's very important to practice common sense,
Yeah.
I guess you could
Well,
say.
and is even if you study some of this stuff, people will be like, "Oh yeah, it's fine," and then you do it, and it's not fine because it's you and it's not them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing it, and it negatively impacts you instead of, And that's the thing where you have to exercise caution with any of this stuff, because this is like, I mean, most plants in one way or another are poisonous or were poisonous to humans at one time, and also like. But anyways, it's not one of those things where we have to. I think generally speaking, people are gonna research stuff, and I'd hope people would be as careful as possible with it. So it's not. It's also one of the things, like when we're doing this to connect with plants, we're doing it in a nature where we're honoring the plant. We're not looking to take something from it. We're not looking to, um, you know, we're not looking for it to do. We're not like lashing it to a chain and saying, "Hey, this is what I want from you. Do it for me." You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, you know, it's not like I want abundance, so I'm gonna smoke this herb and you're gonna give me abundance. Um, and I know a lot of people wouldn't even think of it that way, but when you look at how people usually are using herbs, that's kind of when they're making tinctures and they're making oils, etc. Um, it's the intent put into, how. I mean, it's as intense as if you're doing Solomonic magic, to the point of where you're praying for 9 days before each goetic ritual. You're summoning the appropriate angels. You're doing this, that, the other thing. There's a checklist that could be followed to see the best result. And it's not like you should necessarily have to do that, because you don't. But if you honor the connection between the plant and you and the purpose it has, and that doesn't mean, just like Andromeda was saying, the plant, if you grew it, it could have a completely different significance and connection, and you dry the leaves of it or the berries or what have you, and you smash it up and you use it for something that's not, like, if you have, well, I don't even, I there's so many plants. I'm just like, if you have this plant, no. Um, it could be anything, and it could have one purpose in a book, and then you use it for something else because you put the intent and the love and the care and the connection between the plant for one thing, and that's what it's going to give you in response. I mean, when you look at what when you look at like plants and nature and animals, even, we're looking at the fact that we are programming a response from them. They're going to have the same energy that we are putting into them. They're going to have the same. So, like, how you treat an animal is how it's going to treat you most of the times, unless it's got like trauma or it's, a wild animal. But even then, there are people who have wild animals as friends and pets that come up to them whenever they see them, and they connect, and then they go their separate ways. I think that's the most beautiful way to have a friend that's an animal. And I've always loved the idea of that. And then it's like, but if you have a tree that you go and you put intention to every day, and you connect with it, it's going to give to you. It's going to remember you. Things are going to happen that are going to not seem to make sense, but it's because of the tree. It's going to be a spiritual experience because of the tree. Like, I know the tree I used to play in when I was a kid, I had such a strong bond with that tree that it just, I can't even explain how it felt to not be around that tree anymore, because I grew up with it. And when I would climb it, when I would sit with it, when I was sad and I'd sit in the branches of the tree, and I would feel better. It'll take. I mean, that was another thing I was going to talk about. These plants can take our sadness away, and they can change that, and like
They can transmute
it.
Yeah.
And we can, and it's not like we're feeding them our sadness. It's like they're able to, they're transistors to the earth. They're pulling in information, and the earth is a great healer. The earth is our mother for a reason. We're always in her womb, and that's one of the things. It's just like, we're like, how people are on earth. Most people are not, like, they don't know what's going on. They don't understand. And there's nothing wrong with that, because, I mean, there is something wrong with that, but there's nothing wrong with where they're at in their life and where they're going to be, they're going to grow towards, etc., etc. But if we're looking at like the, not just like the negative impact that is being put on the earth and the strain it puts on people more than it puts on the earth itself, the earth is going to survive regardless, in all due hopes. But there's such a negative impact that, and it's funny because what does the earth do? It transmutes the energy.
Mm-hmm.
It continues to,
it cycles.
Yeah.
Cycles. Yeah.
And like, I like to look at the trees, the tall trees of the forest, as radio towers for the energies of the earth. I think it's very, very important.
Mm.
But like I was saying, sitting with them, giving them, connecting to the energy. Like you were talking about connecting to the current. I wasn't even going to touch on that. I was just talking about my own thing with that. But yeah, there's so much, and it's funny, we were talking about plants as healing. We were talking about, we were going to talk about that at some point. But yeah, that's my spiel. Like, I could go on, and I probably shouldn't. I shouldn't.
We could always come back and do another episode sometime in the future.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, there are rituals you can do with plants in order to have them take on something that you're dealing with, an illness and emotional pain. You definitely want to make sure you're connecting with the plant to make sure that it's okay, because you can't just go, oh, I'm going to do this work and push this onto the plant. It may not work, and you may end up being like, oh, this is just ridiculous, when in reality it's because the plant refused to, because plants have boundaries just like humans. But you can work with plants to connect with them and allow them to heal you. There was some other aspect to that I was going to touch on, and I lost it. It flew off into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that I've done rituals with certain aspects of plants for other reasons, like working with Lilith, working with other beings, and I've done like specific thing. I won't go into it, but ritualistically, I've done things with plants. And it's funny because the Necronomicon, you have in the Necronomicon, you have a pot when you're working with the Watchers, and every time you summon the Watcher, which are these like, they're like angels, but they're like ravenous, hungry beasts instead of angels, and
Devouring angels.
devouring angels, and you have to have a living plant, and you stab the dagger into not into the plant, but into the pot of plant. If you're doing it outside, you can just do it, but it has to be between the two circles. Like you have a circle, and then around that is another circle, and that has to be between the two circles. And you use that to summon the Watcher, and then you use it to send it away too.
Yeah.
And it has to be a living plant. So, yeah, I thought that was. I remembered that when what you were talking about. And,
yeah.
But I think that rituals, I mean, and you can even do small rituals with burning herbs, and I don't mean it in like burn the plant, but I mean like burn some of the herbs as an offering to the plant.
I often will, if I have a plant that flowers, I will take those flowers and dry them and use them in incense later on. You can also use leaves. Of course, you have to make sure they're safe to burn.
Yeah.
But you can even use incense, like pre-made incense sticks from a store. Like there's lavender and rose and different more complex incenses, and you can use those even. And something that I really love is to burn lavender. I started doing this last summer. I was working with shape-shifting. Was it during the summer or winter? It was over the winter.
Yeah, it was the winter.
I was working with shape-shifting, and I was burning lavender, and I actually really fell in love with the energy of the smoke, because you think of lavender as calming and gentle, and then when you work with it in this capacity of shape-shifting into various animal forms, it changes the energy of the lavender, and it's no longer about restful and gentle. It's about the almost like the intensity of the connection. Like it makes it, the primal, it becomes more primal in nature, which I think is very interesting. But you can also get those wooden bracelets, the bead bracelets that they sell in a lot of different shops that sell witchcraft related items. Metaphysical stores. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little tired.
No, you're good.
You can use that wood to connect with the spirit of the specific tree that it came from, this type of tree. Like there's ash and walnut and oak and all sorts of stuff. I really like camphor. It's a very it's healing, but it's also it's a powerful connection. It's a very powerful connector. So there's all sorts of things. When you really start working with the energy of the plants, you'll find different ways to work with them. Even I have used seeds and put them in lockets and worn them as just in a necklace locket, which could be really great if you're like in the broom closet, and you maybe are in an environment where it's not safe to practice witchcraft. You just put a seed in a necklace locket, a little oval or a heart-shaped locket, and nobody has to know what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all sorts of things you can do.
Was there anything else we should cover about plants for right now?
I think we should leave it for now.
Okay.
If I go on, it's going to be another hour.
Do you want to talk about the cards, or
Yeah,
did you want to talk
I'm
about?
worried I won't do them justice because I am very tired
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
recording this late because we've
Yeah,
been busy.
it's been a long day.
Yeah.
So I actually have the Incubus Tarot by David Furno and Charles Harrington. And it's funny because I just wanted one or two cards and it kept throwing out the same three cards of Temperance, the Lovers, and the Sun. And on Temperance you have your it's kind of like the black-winged demonic angel. It's got feathers, but it also looks very dark. And they're pouring water from a jug into a clay dish. And Temperance is about that control of the emotions. A lot of cards you'll get the connection between maybe 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on land, which is the connection between the physical and the spiritual. But in this card, he's sitting on his throne, or they're sitting on their throne. It's not clear if it's male or female, and controlling the flow of the water from this vessel into their dish. And then with the Lovers, it's actually a tree with the leaves are coming off of it, and there's a woman that is kind of intertwined with this male tree. And I think that's so interesting because we were talking about plants, and then in this deck it is that deep, almost divine connection between humanity and nature. I think it's funny because when you think incubus, you think vampire, and you don't really think nature, but then there's such a deep, intense connection with the nature of the vampire, and they're very connected with earth energy, I think. And then the Sun is a childish figure with a red flag. He's riding a white horse with red straps under this very terrifying looking sun visage. And the Sun a lot of times is about bringing light to a situation. It can be good emotions, happy moments. I think in this deck it's very much about the vibrancy. There's a lot of sunflowers in it, so I feel as though it's more of about bringing attention to something, especially with the red flag and the white and red with the backdrop of black. It really feels like it's bringing light to a situation. So it's almost as if you're, by controlling your emotions, coming into this sense of calm and having that deep connection with the other, it's going to bring light to the situation. It's going to enlighten you in some way. So I really feel like that really is very connected to what we were talking about. Because in order to work with plants, you need to allow your own self to flow with the water, the energy of the water, to sink into them and create that connection. So I really like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And that's one of your favorite tarot decks.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you. And that is going to be the end of this one. So there's links to everything down below. Or on our bio on YouTube, there's links to our Etsy pages, the website, my website, other things.
Yeah, other things.
Yeah, I don't know.
All the things.
I'm like, it's late, so I'm just like, default mode, activate. Yeah, there's links to everything down below, or in the YouTube bio. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. I don't know what Amazon's called, but so that is. And if you would like to like the video, if you enjoyed it, if you want to support us in any way, if you really liked it and you want more, you can subscribe. And if you, we put these out every Monday and Friday, and we're doing our best to stay on that, even though it's late tonight. And we release them around 2 something Pacific time. Did I cover all the bases?
Yeah, ask questions.
Oh yeah, ask questions, comments
Always
if you
be
like.
curious.
Yeah. And we are grateful to read your comments and the people who have been commenting. We're super grateful.
We love hearing what people think, and
it makes it so much more exciting. The whole idea of this episode was because of, a comment. So super grateful for that, and we're grateful that everybody's been enjoying it and watching it and listening to it. We're trying to get the videos out. So yeah. Thank you so much. We're glad that it's been grateful for the reception, and super grateful to be doing this because it's something we enjoy doing. Talking to each other. So
yeah.
And now we're just recording it sometimes.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do. Why not share it with the world?
Exactly. The insane ravings of two magically minded people.
Possibly slightly insane.
Slightly insane, yeah.
We wouldn't know.
It's slightly neurotic, but that's okay.
Yes.
But yeah, no. So that is, I covered all the bases, and the darkness in me sees and honors the darkness in you.
Yeah, you did.
That has been the Doubles Podcast. Thank you very much.